Welcome to Make Your Point, Season 3. To our returning and new students, teachers, judges, and friends, thank you for joining us for another thrilling season of this national televised secondary schools debate. The impactful, spirited Seasons 1 and 2 demonstrated that Make Your Point is truly more than just a debate show. It's a vibrant space for dialogue, learning, and transformation. We have witnessed how our debaters have cleverly synthesized extensive bodies of complex information, creatively crafted arguments and rebuttals, but more impressively, they have demonstrated various perspectives that have kept our viewers on the edge of their seats. Our debaters continue to remind us of the power of informed discussion and respectful argument. The 12 schools participating in this season of Make Your Point in alphabetical order are Astra Boys College, San Fernando, Barrackpore West Secondary School, Eldorado West Secondary School, Fatima College, Hillview College, Holy Faith Convent Couva, Marabella South Secondary, Naparima Girls High School, Presentation College Chaguanas, Queens Royal College, San Fernando Central Secondary School, and finally, St. Mary's College. And now, it is my pleasure to introduce our judges for Season 3. Mr. Mushtaq Mohammed, General Manager, Paria Fuel Trading Company. Mr. Eward Hayward, Advisor to the Minister of Education and Coordinator of the Adopt a School Program. Mr. Akash Samaru, Senior Reporter, Guardian Media Limited. And of course, joining me on stage is our timekeeper, Miss Jamie Simmons. Let's hear a loud round of applause for our schools, our judges, and our timekeeper. Debaters, as we embark upon Season 3, I invite you to embrace the spirit of debate as an opportunity to learn, grow, and enjoy, where you honor and respect the value of your opponents and remain open-minded to the opportunities for developing your own strengths. Before we begin, to our viewers, on September 27, 2024, all participating schools were invited to draw randomly from our ballot box to determine their topic and their position ahead of the competition stage. The debate will be conducted as follows. Once invited to do so, the proposition will speak for up to 4 minutes to present their opening. Then, the opposition will speak for up to 4 minutes to present their opening. Both teams will then be given 5 minutes to confer among themselves before being allowed 2 minutes each to summarize. The judges will then make their decision to determine which team advances to the quarterfinal stage. And a reminder that the judges' decision is final. Debaters, you are required to only speak when invited to do so at the lectern and stay within your time limits. Our timekeeper will ring the bell once to indicate that you have 1 minute left to complete. When your time is up, you will hear the bell ring twice. After which, a continuous ring should you go over the allotted time. Members of the House, I am certain that you will enjoy this preliminary round, but a reminder to please remain respectful and sensitive to our debaters and our judges. Our first head-to-head is Hillview College versus Naparima Girls High School. I now invite Hillview College to the stage. And I invite Naparima Girls High School to the stage. The motion is, does the state adequately protect the rights of the child? Will the proposition speaker, Kavish Prasad of Hillview College, please take the floor?
Madam Chairperson, esteemed judges, my worthy opponents, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Adequacy. What is adequacy? See, Collins Dictionary defines adequacy as the quality of being generally good enough or of a sufficient amount to be acceptable. So adequacy is impossible to exactly measure, but we can quantify it through the interventions of the state being the governing bodies of the executive, legislative, and judicial arms of Trinidad and Tobago, as highlighted in our constitution. See, the state exists as the macro or large-scale aspect, while the businesses, communities, families, and individuals exist on the micro level. Consider, the state, it's only one layer, one level of a child's experience. But the role of the community, families, individuals, and businesses exists beneath that, on the micro layer. And here is where the issues arise. Because, as we intend to prove, the state's control has been adequately exercised over the policies, the finances, the systems, and the legislation. And as such, we ubiquitously agree that on that macro scale of state, children's rights have been adequately protected. Not perfectly protected, adequately protected. For example, Trinidad and Tobago was one of the first countries in 1991 to ratify the UN Convention on the Rights of a Child. Not to mention that we've created the Children's Authority, a proud sponsor of this debate, enacted the Children's Act, the National Child Policy, and countless others. Take a look at our children's protected right to an education, where within the Education Act, there exists a compulsory school age of 5 to 16. We also experience a primary level enrollment rate of 98%, according to the World Bank. Similarly, the CXC reported that Trinidadian mathematics pass rates in 2024 was 6% higher than the rest of the Caribbean. These irrefutable statistics, they simply blow adequacy out of the water. And more than just numbers, take a look at my worthy opponents, equipped with a fancy skywalk, earning countless scholarships and merit placements. Earlier, that's more than adequate. And another cornerstone right is children's healthcare and access to food. The UNHCR independently reported that primary healthcare is freely available to all citizens. Furthermore, the MOE highlights that they provide the school nutrition program, wherein 133,000 meals are delivered daily to schools around the country. 133,000. How can we say that this is not adequate when the very definition of adequacy is to be of a sufficient or acceptable quantity? Separately, the Children's Act, it helps to safeguard a child's right to protection from violence and abuse via the Children's Authority, the Child Protection Unit, and our judiciary system. However, a case study by Arizona State University revealed that the vast majority of child abuse cases occur in private places at the hands of those who are personally familiar with the victims, parents even. As such, it's unrealistic for the macro-level state system to detect this. This is not a failure of the state, but rather a real-world limitation. The state has adequately provided reporting systems, such as the anonymous 24-hour child line, as well as social workers and the family court for resolution. But the only way to allow these state systems to be effective is by speaking up. Our own chairperson, Priyanka Lala, conducted a series of interviews on CNC3, wherein both Priyanka and the majority of respondents acknowledged that our country has strong children's rights, but the general burden, it lies on the public for us to see greater progress. We must be actively involved. Ladies and gentlemen, it takes a village to raise a child. Thank you.
Will the opposition speaker, Shamaya Charles of Naparima Girls High School, please take the floor?
Good morning, esteemed judges and my worthy opponents. The motion, does the state adequately protect the rights of a child, is one of the most pressing moral obligations of any society, the protection of its children. The proposition aims to convince you that the state adequately protects the rights of a child. However, we, the opposition, are here today to state that the state is failing in protecting our children. We do not seek to claim, however, that the state has not made no strides in safeguarding the rights of children. Rather, we wish to redirect your conscience to an illumination of the inadequacy of these efforts. According to the Cambridge Dictionary, adequately is defined as satisfactory or acceptable. The Children's Authority of Trinidad and Tobago has outlined the substantive rights of a child under provision, protection, and participation. However, in a recent CNC3 article, it stated that over 10,000 sexual abuse reports had been made to Children's Authority in the past 8 years, while they have been handling 4,000 to 5,000 reports of abuse annually. Is this the adequate protection that the proposition is so boldly claiming that the state protects? No, ladies and gentlemen, these gentlemen are sailing blindly through uncharted waters. They have stated that the state cannot be everywhere. However, the state has direct control of foster care systems. According to the Children's Advocacy Institute, they reported that over 400,000 cases of foster care abuse has been reported to Children's Authority annually. And in 2022, Judith Jones Task Force accounted of physical abuse in children's homes, fatal incidents, accidental incidents. Does this sound like it obeys Article 19 of the United Nations Convention that our proposition so gracefully mentioned, which states that the government should ensure children are protected from violence, abuse, and neglect? The proposition must heed this truth, for they too are children. While they extol the state's purported excellence, this so-called excellence can soon turn into names that are written on an obituary. Andrea Lalland, 13, murdered by a man who raped her. Shaquille Williams, 5, murdered. Faith Peterkin, 14, shot dead. Noel Thomas, 8, killed while sleeping at home. Amara Little, 4, beheaded and mutilated. She was found missing an eye. The proposition is here glorifying the state's inability to protect children, while these very children are 6 feet under. A moment of silence for these lives that are lost. To further support my point that the state is failing, Trinidad and Tobago was flagged for human trafficking concerns. In 2019, the U.S. Department of State's Trafficking in Persons report ranked the country as Tier 2, which states the insufficient efforts to protect children from sexual abuse and trafficking. And these fancy legislations that the proposition so gracefully also mentioned, such as the Trafficking in Persons Act, the weak enforcement of such legislations causes children to be vulnerable to abuse and sexual exploitation. Does this sound like it obeys Article 34? Protect the child from all forms of sexual exploitation and sexual abuse? Lastly, education is not accessible to all. There are segments of the population that are denied the right to education. Dr. Radhika Mehez of the NGO Support Autism TT revealed among the 75 registered members of the Rahul's Clubhouse Autism Center, 60% lack access to any public school. So I must ask the proposition, what merit does the proposition find in a system that excludes many children, particularly these with disabilities, from a right to education? To conclude, I urge the proposition to reassess their claim, as these alarming statistics of child abuse, sexual exploitation, and educational deprivation expose a significant failure in the state's duty. Thank you.
What a powerful start to our first head-to-head for this preliminary round. Both teams now have 5 minutes to confer, and to you, our viewing audience, we'll be back soon. Welcome back to Make Your Point Season 3. Both teams have had 5 minutes to confer and are now ready to summarize. Will the proposition speaker to summarize, Sanjeev Joseph of Hillview College, please take the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, I completely understand and empathize with the opposition. It is instinctual to immediately pass blame onto the state for the shortcomings of our nation with regard to adequately protecting the rights of a child. But on delving into the nitty-gritty of this complicated, multi-layered issue, we begin to take into consideration the pivotal role of the community and individual in ensuring the rights of a child are adequately protected. As my colleague Kavish stated, there's only so much the state can do. But I guess the opposition thinks children should be wrapped in bubble wrap and have a lawyer present at recess. The topic of discussion is not whether the state perfectly protects the rights of a child, but rather adequately. This is because the state can only create the framework through legislation, policies, and signatories to international bodies that protects the rights of a child adequately, after which it is left to citizens to follow said framework and use it as a guide to their decision-making. How can we say the state does not adequately protect the rights of a child when said state has invested $7.51 billion in the education sector? In fact, Serval established a school for special needs children in 2010. It falls onto us, the individuals and communities, to manage resources the state provides and to create a culture that prioritizes children. In the case of Judith Jones, we spoke to Marcus Kisoon, a member of the Judith Jones Task Force, who highlighted the issues exist at the community level, not the state. Furthermore, changes were implemented to combat this. Because how can the state ensure your child knows right from wrong? How can the state ensure that your child spiritually invests in themselves? How can the state ensure that your child goes to school and learns? How can the state force families to report violent adults? When the state's resources and citizens work hand in hand, idealism becomes a reality. Thank you.
Will the opposition speaker to summarize, Isabel Leasing of Naparima Girls High School, please take the floor.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Just as a net is designed to catch those who fall, our government is meant to protect the rights of their youth children. This net is torn and useless. Why? Why, you may ask? As children fall to the gaps of the state's futile protection, they become vulnerable. The proposition advocates that the state adequately protects the rights of a child. They lied. The evidence is indisputable, ladies and gentlemen. Look at the blood at our failed children. It is undeniable. The grave inconsistencies showcased. Our amenities, buildings, and our Mayor Skywalk seriously being prioritized over human life. We are extremely fortunate to be given the opportunity to attend and enjoy the benefits of our school. But what about the rest of the nation's youth? In the reality of it, our nation is failing the youth as there is a lack of execution or improvement. My worthy opponents may have you believe that the quantity of what is done by the government is indeed satisfactory. However, my colleague and I have and will articulate its quality. The state has a responsibility to protect far more than adequately or acceptably some of children's rights. They are liable for protecting all of their rights. We have highlighted the state's failure and inadequacy to protect children's rights through violence, educational neglect, and sexual exploitation. And additionally, locally, 24% of children live below the poverty line, lacking food and safe housing. And this is accounted for by the Central Statistical Office. In 2023, former MP Surujatan Rambachan bemoaned the deaths of a mother and daughter whose education was inevitably discontinued. Their shelter being barely classified as a home, lacking all basic amenities like water and electricity. Can you imagine the suffering this little girl had to go through? You can't, ladies and gentlemen. And I quote, "She lost her life in the fire, but she had already lost her future." In conclusion, observe our children's safety net and envision the countless lives who have fallen victim to the government's irrefutable failure. Thank you.
Thank you, teams. This concludes the first of our 3 head-to-heads in this preliminary round 1. Judges, your feedback.
I want to start with Hillview. Kavish, powerful start. I liked how you all contextualized the debate in terms of what the debate is about, in terms of the topic, and it's about adequacy and not perfection. So I really like that. The egg prop was a bit underwhelming. And I only say that because this is my 3rd year here, so I've seen you all before. I've seen you all last year, and I don't know if you're saving some fireworks for later on, but you have to get out the prelims first, right? Sanjeev, again, I like that you would have chosen to kind of reinforce your point rather than go after them too much in terms of what they said, and I like that you underscored the state's limitation because, again, it's about adequacy and not that the state is a perfect protector of children's rights. Going on to Shemaya, I thought that was brilliant. I thought the pacing was passionate. I'm glad that you centered it on child safety, something they would have tried to stay away from a bit at the beginning. You realize it started with education, and that's because they know when it comes to children's safety, I mean, they really probably didn't have much to work with to defend their point there, but I mean, you all had the luxury of centering over children's safety. And I thought you were going to destroy that egg when I saw the sign coming up when you all walked up. I said, nice. But then you held it upside down. And all of a sudden, the egg ain't looking that bad, right? What I liked about that summary is you all didn't know they were going to come with that skywalk thing. And you all were able to demonstrate the flexibility I was talking about before we started filming, where we were just having that discussion. And you all were able to incorporate that into it to say, we understand that privilege, but that's not what we're talking about right now.
Avish, I really like the strategy around playing around the word adequately. I thought the way that you was able to try to link the laws to the meaning of the word adequacy kind of supported the argument a little bit. I thought that was powerful. I thought he had good use of external data and good use of comparative data, which I thought was good. For the proposition, a real good strategy, Shamaya. I thought bringing that passion and emotion was powerful. It kind of hit you a little bit below the skin, so you kind of got people's attention, and very deliberate presentation. Isabella, a little more confidence, but I think there was a little error in strategy when you presented. You was mixing up a little bit what is the nation and what is the state, right? Keeping that distinction clear, would have kept your argument really, really powerful.
I must say, for the initial debate, it was really outstanding by both teams. The Hillview direction in terms of focusing on the statement, and in debate we have to be very, very critical and sharp with the facts, and to play on the adequacy, I thought was good. What I would say, in debate, we have to do a little less reading. And of course, it's content preparation. We have to try to get it off the top of our heads a little more, because when we debating is about convincing. So when you look people in the eyes and when you free speak, it helps to convey the message a little deeper in the soul. From the opposition side, it was excellent. I was waiting to see what was on the prop, and that is where the nitty-gritty matters. Opening the sign upside down is some of the things that happens in life that you don't prepare for. So cues like tagging the back of your sign, top, bottom, and all of those different things are good, but the messaging with it, the calling out of the names, the raising of the energy, bringing it from overarching topic to specific people with names and identities is the ideal response for that debate, in my opinion.
Thank you, judges, and congratulations once again to both teams. Let's give them a hearty round of applause. We now take another short break, and when we return, it's our second head-to-head. El Dorado West Secondary School versus Fatima College. Welcome back to Make Your Point. The motion is, the current school syllabus does not prepare children for the real world. Will the proposition speaker, Kadira Kelly Claremont of El Dorado West Secondary School, please take the floor?
All protocols observed. Grandad used to say, all you have plenty book sense, but no common sense. He was the most self-reliant man I ever knew. Ladies and gentlemen, we propose that the current school syllabus does not prepare children for the real world. I want to be clear here. The real world is filled with numerous challenges where many people struggle with paying bills, relationship issues, and many other things that are not addressed in the syllabus. Make no mistake, adulting is hard. My fellow students, for us, success is determined by written examinations, especially high-stakes exams like SAA and CSEC. This is how our knowledge, and I dare say our worth, is recognized. Professor Ramesh Diosaran agrees when he says, it remains a pity that school success is so much determined by purely grammar-type examinations. Our school syllabus is undoubtedly shaped by these exams. Grandad would say that is putting the cart before the horse. The dearth of authentic assessment is worrisome. Quite often, students who excel in academic performance are unable to apply that knowledge to real-world situations. The theory does not transition into practical. Where's the point of learning about photosynthesis if we can't grow a kitchen garden? The focus on the current school syllabus is on book sense, rather than the holistic development of the child. But alas, such is the nature of our inherited colonialist structures, according to Brown and Conrad. In this environment, the subject, rather than the student, is taught. Emotional intelligence takes a back seat to academic intelligence. There are students who work very hard and are able to manage the stress of exams. However, many struggle, which can lead to depression, low self-esteem, and even self-harm. Sadly, how to deal with this stress is not taught in schools. Emotional intelligence is also vital for maintaining interpersonal and professional relationships. This is absent in classrooms. Thus, students struggle with empathy, collaboration, and conflict resolution, which is absolutely necessary in the real world. The ability to make life decisions often hinges on one's emotional intelligence, like choosing a life partner or resolving conflict without violence. Many of us think that we are experts in the use of social media. However, so many of us become victims of leaked videos, leaked photos, hacked accounts, and scams. The pitfalls of social media, unfortunately, is a burn-to-learn experience. If only we could learn how to navigate social media responsibly. If only. The school syllabus often neglects financial literacy, like how to do taxes, take loans, invest, save, budget, and spend. Basic life skills like cooking, basic home repairs, agriculture, and job interview techniques are often limited or absent. There is no manual that comes with being a parent. However, it is arguably the most important job in the world. Yet, good parenting skills is yet to be introduced to the current syllabus. Wesley George, education officer, states in his article published in the Trinidad Guardian, and I quote, "Parenting programs should become an integral part of the school syllabus." Ladies and gentlemen, critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, and innovation are found in small measure in the recently graduated. This is a direct result of the current school syllabus, which is unfortunate because it is these skills that are required for progress in the real world. This, my friends, is common sense. I thank you.
Will the opposition speaker, Sterling Russell of Fatima College, please take the floor?
All protocols observed. A school syllabus is an academic document that communicates information about a specific course and explains the rules, responsibilities, and expectations associated with it. We, the opposition, will be discussing how the school syllabus does prepare students for the real world through the actual course content and prepare students, and indirect benefits gained. In any syllabus you open, before you even engage with the topics, you encounter three things: the aims of the particular subject, general objectives to complete, and skills and abilities to be developed. Take the CSEC Social Studies 2025 syllabus, for example, which explicitly states that it aims to develop life skills important for social interaction in the 21st century and develop the ability to adapt and to solve issues related to challenges not only in the region, but the wider world. Skills and values to be promoted are inquiry and communication skills, critical thinking, and problem-solving skills, which the opposition claims that isn't taught in the school syllabus. The real world is defined as a set of situations most humans have to deal with in their lives. What do most situations in life require? Problem solving, whether practical or numerical. Speaking of numerical, what about taxes? The oldest argument in the book. The school syllabus doesn't teach us how to do taxes. But in order to do taxes, don't you need to know basic arithmetic? A topic which is heavily focused on in various levels of the math syllabus. The number one reason schools do not, and quite frankly, should not teach taxes in school is because too many people file different taxes for different income levels. What time is there to teach you different types of taxes and tax returns and satisfy your other academic studies, which, by the way, has a syllabus in order for you to be certified enough for a job? Because in the real world, needing money, I lie. Moreover, the school syllabus is not just the words on a paper. Let's make a comparison. I'm going to ask you something. Does sports prepare you for the real world? Not only by scoring goals and slamming dunks, but through playing the sport, you obtain skills such as teamwork, discipline, and tolerance. So why is it that when the question is asked, does the current school syllabus prepare students for the real world, the proposition are confused? Almost if not all school syllabi around the world have some form of group activity, whether it be school projects or regionally the CSEC SBA. Rather than starting unnecessary conflict when someone doesn't want to pull their weight, students learn how to communicate and find effective solutions to issues. This is applicable in the real world, so you don't lose it and get fired, then lose the money we discussed earlier. In conclusion, you can carry the donkey by the river, but you can't make it drink. The school syllabus can only give you content. It is up to the student to make use of it. Even if taxes, social skills, relationship classes, etc. are taught, will the students even care? Or would they cram for an exam one day rather than study to remember in the long term? The school syllabus does prepare students for the real world if the students want to be prepared for it. The proposition expects the syllabus to spoon feed them everything and make the transition to the real world easy, but it clearly isn't. Thank you.
Thank you, teams. You now both have 5 minutes to confer. We now take another short break. Please do stay with us. Welcome back to Make Your Point Season 3. Both teams have had 5 minutes to confer and are now ready to summarize. Will the proposition speaker to summarize, Shawnice Austin of El Dorado West Secondary School, please take the floor.
All protocols observed. Ladies and gentlemen, the respective opposition would have you believe that the current school syllabus has the necessary components to successfully prepare children for the real world. The school syllabus can only give you content. This is a direct quote from the opposition. Even the opposition cannot deny that the current school syllabus is still structured and shaped by examinations. Additionally, we must acknowledge the difference between the curriculum and the syllabus. Curriculum refers to a set of guidelines, whereas syllabus refers to an established document that has a list of topics to be covered by a subject. Although there may be attempts to introduce random programs in the school's curriculum, they are still absent in the school syllabus. Even the Cultural Transformation Initiative, which is a step in the right direction by its own admission, will take at least 7 years to bear fruit and will address the curriculum rather than the syllabus. Sounds good on paper, but limited infrastructure, ill-equipped teachers, and sustainability issues will hamper its effectiveness. Ladies and gentlemen, we propose that the current school syllabus does not prepare children for the real world. Additionally, technical vocational subjects such as plumbing, auto mechanics, agricultural science help to prepare students for the real world is a fallacy. These subjects are only offered in a handful of schools at the CSEC level and are generally undersubscribed because they don't carry the same prestige as academic subjects. In order to prepare our children in any meaningful way to thrive in the real world, there must be a significant shift in our education model. We must divorce ourselves from our inherited colonial educational structure. Though there are some attempts to do this, it is still simply not enough. Book sense and common sense must work hand in hand to ensure that we and our country have a bright future. I thank you.
Will the opposition speaker to summarize, Arvind Singh of Fatima College, please take the floor.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We, the opposition, are firstly going to address some of the concerns brought forward by the proposition, and finally, summarize our overall point. The first concern brought up was that critical thinking and problem-solving skills are not even fostered or taught in the education system. However, as per the primary school syllabus, these skills are extensively and intensely trained into children from infant 1 up until standard 5, and as well as agricultural science. Secondly, relationship issues can often be resolved by basic communication, which is enforced in English language and communication study. Thirdly, The SBAs. The SBAs are a manifestation of practical applications of the theory in which we learn in the classrooms. So if it is true that we don't have any real applications of our theory, then what are the SBAs even about? Next, antisocial personality disorder entails things like a lack of empathy. However, a lack of empathy cannot even be controlled by the school syllabus, and it cannot necessarily be resolved. That relies on external factors such as guidance counselors, which for information are provided in some schools. Now, the proposition mentioned how we are in a colonialist education system, but we must ask, what is colonialistic about a book authored by the Caribbean Examination Council? What is so colonialistic about the education system that we have been in since 1972 by the Caribbean Examination Council? To summarize, ladies and gentlemen, the real world is one in which requires a few but important skills, those being, among others, communication, critical thinking, arithmetic, and teamwork. The aforementioned are each and all intensely and extensively developed at and from a critical age, but fortunately, the school syllabus covers the development of these skills. In addition, it is key that we appreciate that the syllabus is only a guide, and to argue that it's ineffective because students don't end up being prepared would be unfair, as that depends on external factors that are outside the control. Thank you.
Thought-provoking arguments from both teams. Judges, your feedback.
So let me start with Eldorado and strategy, right? I thought your strategy was a very good strategy, focusing a little bit from the practicalities of life to the soft skills required to make life successful. I thought trying to bring those soft skills and the impact of modern technology, social media, etc., on how that impacts living in today's world was very powerful. So, good strategy focusing on the soft skills. I thought you had a good rebuttal, but I also felt that the summary speaker, Shani, strayed away a little bit from the original thinking that seems to be around the soft skills and whether the syllabus really holds into a full understanding the soft skills required for good living. The opposition, focus on syllabus, I think was good. Getting into the syllabus and outlining exactly, how it meets some of the requirements of daily living, I thought that was good. And I thought linking work activities to the syllabus was also important, was also good. The rebuttal was good, and it continued to focus on the syllabus. But again, there was a lack of evidence or a lack of empirical data to be able to demonstrate that focusing on the syllabus actually helps to improve daily living.
I felt like both schools, I felt like you read too much. You read too much from your script. So break that comfort that you get from your script, because you realize that you even, tripped over yourself while trying to stick to your script. Speak to us. Yeah, the script is our guide, right? Strategy is 40% of your overall mark, right? And in that strategy, you really need to prove your point in a broader context, in a real world context, a local, regional, international context. So for example, Eldo, financial literacy and empathy not taught in schools. Well, what is the present day fallout because of that? What are we seeing now in society? We broke and violent? Yes, we broke and violent. Similarly, Fatima, contextualize your argument with real life perspective. So at the end, you wanted to peg it that it's up to the child and the student to show that willingness to want to be prepared for real life. But don't leave it for the end. That was the last thing you said. Give me an example of that. What are we seeing now because of that?
So I think we started off well, starting with Eldorado. I liked, as was mentioned before, linking to the soft skills and not having enough and that space. From the rebuttal side, I really enjoyed when you rebutted by giving the definition for curriculum and syllabus identified as not the same thing. We're talking about the syllabus here, not the curriculum. Fatima, the delivery was smooth, composed, articulate. I like when, of course, when you go back to the motion and you are arguing that it does, and the emphasis on does and the hand gestures. Those are the things that you have to do to sell your point and to double down on yourself. In terms of the prop, I enjoy that because the prop was here from before. And what you did was you used your prop as a rebuttal to what was said. So you'd have had to pull out something from the top and then link that to your prop instead of coming with a prepared script for your prop. And that is the kind of diversity and skill that we want to see in these challenges.
Thank you, judges, and once again, congratulations to both teams. We now take another short break, and when we return, it's our final head-to-head for Make Your Point Season 3, the preliminary round 1. Welcome back to Make Your Point Season 3. The motion is: citizens should have easier access to guns given the crime situation. Will the proposition speaker, Aisha Brathwaite of San Fernando Central Secondary School, please take the floor?
If you believe in the right to life, then you must believe in the right to have the means to defend it. These are the words of Charlie Reese, a conservative American journalist. In TNT, these words resonate deeply in light of the spiraling crime situation. As of September 2024, our nation's murder toll stands at a whopping 487, and as of last night, it's staggering 500. Honorable judges, these statistics represent fathers, mothers, and children whose lives have been senselessly snuffed. TNT holds the shameful title of the 7th highest crime index in the world, with a crime rate of 37.6% per 100,000 people, as reported by World Population Review. To add fuel to the fire is a devastatingly low crime detection rate. According to the Trinidad Guardian, it is a mere 16%. Even the Commissioner of Police, Earl Harewood Christopher, called on citizens to ask for divine intervention in helping the crime problem. How can a nation be at peace when criminals walk freely, unpunished? Honorable judges, citizens of this nation need a tangible means of self-defense through easier access to guns. Let not the opposition lead you to believe that law-abiding citizens having easier access to guns would suddenly transform them into murderers. At present, to qualify for ownership of a licensed firearm, applicants must submit a certificate of good character and undergo a series of psychological tests and evaluations. With this in place, it is highly unlikely to experience mass shootings like Columbine and Uvalde. I affirm the saying, a good guy with a gun can't stop a bad guy with a gun. According to the Walker and Taylor law firm, a defensive gun is one used to protect oneself, one's family, or others from a crime. In a country plagued by violence and crime, defending and protecting ourselves is not an option, it is a necessity. Action on Armed Violence, a charity-based group in the UK, explains that when criminals know that their potential victims may be armed, they think twice before attacking. As the old people may say, monkey know which tree to climb. In short, guns also serve as a deterrent for criminals. Criminals have easy access to illegal guns, while law-abiding citizens face a wait of up to 5 years to legally acquire a gun. This is unacceptable. The process of acquiring a legal gun in TNT is frustratingly lengthy, partially due to the bottleneck that lies with the Commissioner of Police, whose office is severely overburdened. This system must be reformed to give citizens easier and swifter access to guns. We, the citizens, deserve the chance to defend ourselves, to stand up and protect our families, our communities, and our lives. Today, we stand on behalf of the nation, making a plea for easier access to guns. We make a plea for the reformation of the laws regarding firearm licenses. We make a plea for a fighting chance against the criminals. We make a plea for the preservation of our society. Thank you.
Will the opposition speaker, Shael Charles of Marabella South Secondary, please take the floor?
Toy, gun for gun. Doi, doi, the bound to run. These are the lyrics to the Calypso, licensed firearm, which won King Luther the national title in 1994. I'm sorry, but when I hear these lyrics, my mind immediately takes me back to a black and white Western movie where in the end, there is no one left standing. Ladies and gentlemen, today my opponent stood here and burdened our ears with solid truths about the needs for citizens to have easier access to guns. But we of Marbella South Secondary are here to refute this Disneyland approach and set the record straight. In a country where hearing gunshots is more common than hearing a calypso beat on some days, it's tempting for citizens to think they should arm themselves. But giving citizens gun is like adding gasoline to an already blazing fire. The risk outweighs the rewards. Let us take a look at the facts. In 2023, Trinidad and Tobago recorded over 400 murders. Over 85% of those killings involved firearms. Our murder rate has skyrocketed to over 35 per 100,000 people, one of the highest in the Caribbean. Now ask yourselves, does putting more guns in the hands of citizens sound like a solution? You do the maths. If you're still advocating for easier access to guns, then consider this. Studies done by Mark Dugan show a direct link between gun ownership and increased firearm-related homicides. A global study found that for every 10% rise in gun ownership, firearm homicides increased by 12%. So, do we really believe that arming more people will make our streets safer, or is it more likely to turn a simple dispute into a deadly confrontation? No. Some may not still be impressed by the facts and might argue, if law-abiding citizens have guns, they can protect themselves from criminals. But legal guns won't fix illegal problems. Let's look further at the reality. In Trinidad, statistics by the Ministry of National Security showed over 70% of gun-related homicides involved illegally acquired firearms, many of which were initially legal. And let's think about this. In the US, where guns are easily accessible, 60% of guns used in urban crimes came from legal sales, and about 1.4 million firearms are stolen each year. While in Canada, which is a stone throw away, guns are not easily accessible and have a 40% less gun-related crime than the US. And I am sure that many of the adults would be interested in this aspect of my discussion, because such a move would definitely impact the economy, making the question of ease or squeeze easier to respond to. I say this because easier access to guns means more guns in circulation. Therefore, law enforcement will need increased resources to regulate and monitor and respond to gun-related incidents. Adding to that, our health sector will also need more resources to deal with increased incidents of gunshot wounds, not only from intended shooting, but accidental ones. Ladies and gentlemen, it means tightening your belts to meet the increased finances that will be needed for national security and health. Or perhaps you prefer a cut in education, which, in our opinion, is one of the very tools to help curb this crime situation in the first place. So, it's plain to see, easier access because of crime is a no, 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 no. Thank you.
Teams, you now have 5 minutes to confer, and we'll see you after the break. Welcome back to Make Your Point Season 3. Both teams have had 5 minutes to confer and are now ready to summarize. Will the proposition speaker to summarize, Jabari Brathwaite of San Fernando Central Secondary School, please take the floor.
Judges, we're not asking for firearms to be handed out like candy. Rather, we're advocating for an efficient and transparent process whereby law-abiding citizens can gain easier access to guns to not only defend themselves, but also to deter criminals. Currently, the process of obtaining a legal firearm in Trinidad and Tobago is slow and extremely inefficient. Every delay leaves citizens more and more vulnerable to criminals who are armed to the teeth with illegal firearms. To make matters worse, the powers that be are calling upon us to rely on divine intervention. This is ridiculous. The picture of a Trinbago Wild Wild West that some may try to paint cannot be further from the truth. Too many fail to understand that to acquire a legal gun, applicants must undergo rigorous screening, such as obtaining a certificate of character and undergoing a psychological evaluation. Don't allow the hasty generalization that because some use guns wrongly, that all will. Fatal accidents can happen in many forms. Anybody can use a knife to cause egregious harm, but you don't see anyone running to hyper-regulate or ban knives because they see its necessity. My opponents, what then do you propose? Propose citizens use to defend themselves? Pepper spray the man holding an AK-47 to your head? Education? Really? Now, friends, imagine you're in bed watching a movie. Suddenly, bang! You lay there paralyzed in fear, defenseless. Everything you have worked for, gone. Imagine how different this situation could be if you had easier access to a legal firearm. Thank you.
Will the opposition speaker to summarize, Zeke Oswari of Marabella South Secondary School, please take the floor.
Just like King Luther, every citizen wants to protect their property, life, and family. But is making guns easy to get a good way to deal with crime? My colleague Cheryl has stated several facts from the US where guns are easy to get. The harsh reality is that thousands die from gun-related incidents. This is in contrast to its neighbor Canada, which has stricter laws regarding guns and fewer gun-related deaths. Ladies and gentlemen, let this not be another case where the US sneezes and we catch the cold, because we will definitely plummet into an out-of-control fire if this gasoline is added, forcing us to spend more of our budget on national security and health to deal with the fallout of guns now making its way to our schools, our homes, our streets, and eventually across our whole nation. The proposition talked about Trinidad and Tobago being in the highest countries in the world with the most crime. But what do you think will happen if you put more guns to the streets? Come on, ladies and gentlemen. Think about the many questions my colleague Shai has left you pondering on. Yes, we acknowledge the facts and the points brought by the proposition, but I would like to remind everyone on one fundamental point made by my colleague Shail, which is legal guns will not fix illegal problems. So making easy access to guns would not stop the crime situation. So therefore, we must look for an alternative, which we have brought to you, which was education. Let me repeat. Easy access to guns by citizens in the face of crime is a no, 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 no. Thank you.
Thank you, teams, for another thought-provoking round of debates. Judges, your feedback.
What I enjoyed from San Fernando Central, in both cases, but especially with our first speaker, I like how she brought up the stats as of last night, which doubled down again on relevance. So that was well done. What was also good and impactful is the repeating of your punchlines, making your plea. Double down in on that, coming down on that, repeating that is also very good. While punchlines are good, it's also a good target. So if, for example, let's say no, 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 do you think we should be safe? Yes, 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 destroy the place. So those are the kind of things the rebuttal should pull into it. Marabella South, again, powerful, good delivery. I like the aggressive reaction from the first presenter in terms of what was being said by the proposition is burdening our ears. That those kind of energies in a debate is very good. And of course, again, the punchlines, no, 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 no. What was good about that as well is even in your rebuttal, you double down on it again, and it ended with the same way, re-emphasizing your energy, re-emphasizing your point. I enjoyed the little reading and the more free speech from the second presenter as well. Very good job from both teams.
So for me, San Fernando Central, I thought was good use of data. You know, you actually kind of bring the problem to the front. You didn't spend much time actually defining the problem, but you was able to bring statistics, data, information immediately to present the problem to us. Marbella, I thought, both theatric an emotion to the debate, which was very powerful. You know, it's almost kind of spilling the blood on the ground kind of thing from Arabella, which, you know, it got to you in a kind of emotive way. But Zeke, I thought you did something that was really special, right? Don't know if you're aware of it. Arabella raised the heat in the room a little bit, and you was able to calm it back down and get us to listen. Good thing about simmering it down, you was able to get back to the facts. Finding the balance between the illegal and effective access was something that would have helped you a lot more in the summary.
Good use of statistics and data, both in a local and an international context. I like that you would have also took some time to preempt what the opposition was coming with respect to an increasingly more violent society. What about mass shootings? I like that. And I want to agree with Mr. Mohammed here, with Jabari. Jabari, I thought it was a very steady and sobering summary. I like the tone you came with. I want to borrow a bit of what he would have said in terms of maybe you could have addressed them a little more in terms of what they would have said, but wasn't bad at all. Shaila and Zeke, a lot of passion. You all brought a lot of passion to this debate. However, with that passion, sometimes it could work for you, and sometimes it could be a bit of a hurdle as well. I want to disagree with the term burden your ears. Some people might like it. Maybe I think we should also show a little more respect to the other side, so maybe stay away from burden your ears. Let me leave that rhetoric for Parliament, where the expectation is lower. It takes practice, and I could see you all being a really huge force to reckon with in this competition in some years to come.
Thank you, judges, and congratulations once again to both teams. What a start to season 3 of Make Your Point. I believe all teams deserve another hearty round of applause. This is Make Your Point Season 3, and the results are in. Once again, congratulations to all 6 schools joining me on stage. Let's give them a hearty round of applause. Each school has put forth a thought-provoking and powerful performance and should be extremely proud of themselves. Hillview College, Naparima Girls High School, Fatima College, El Dorado West Secondary School, San Fernando Central Secondary School, and Marabella South Secondary. And a reminder that the judge's decision is final. Our 3 schools moving forward to the quarterfinal round of Make Your Point Season 3 are Fatima College, San Fernando Central Secondary School, and Naparima Girls High School. Let's now give a loud round of applause for the schools who got this far and now exit the competition with their heads high for their remarkable showings. I would now like to ask a representative from each of our 3 schools to draw from our ballot box to determine their topic and their position ahead of the next competition stage. A reminder that the letter P is for proposition and O for opposition on the numbers 7 to 9. The numbers, of course, signifying the next 3 topics of this competition to be debated. Fatima College. San Fernando Central Secondary School, and Naparima Girls High School. What a start to Season 3 of Make Your Point. Our debaters have set the stage for this competition, as each debater brought passion with their unique and dynamic deliveries. Now, this concludes preliminary round 1. Please join us again next Monday at 8 p.m. on CNC3 for preliminary round 2. to watch these schools debate: Queen's Royal College, Astra Boys College, San Fernando, St. Mary's College, Barrackpore West Secondary School, Presentation College Chaguanas, and Holy Faith Convent Kufa. I'm Priyanka Lala, and I'll see you soon.